Today we wanted to talk about, is it possible to buy a home as a self-employed person?
But first, let's hit it! Hi, this is Alan Victoria Pinder. Welcome to our channel.
And podcast. And if this is your first time, please subscribe in our channel and podcast and get notified when we put a new podcast and video for you.
Honestly, get calls at 252-327-3357. You can also text us anytime with any questions. So with that, let's now talk about the video.
Yeah, this is the question in your mind that we wanted to cover, that if you're self-employed, what is your option for you to buy a home that you love?
Because you might be sitting on a lot of cash, right? You might be making $15,000 a month, decent amount of cash for yourself, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily qualify for a mortgage.
Yes.
When we're talking about, buying a home, because there's all these rules in place. So this is what we're going to really kind of dig into.
Yes. Therefore, many of you know, during the coronavirus, this being a self-employed or gig workers been booming, and many people, they just want to shift from a job 9 to 5 to be self-employed and working for themselves.
Right, but the mortgage rules are not so easy because buying a home is really based on traditional salaried employees.
Exactly.
So if you are owning your own store, owning your own business in any sort of way, you're an author. You have all of these major players like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that have been very slow to shift the labor market to self-employed workers like you are. And you might be making a lot of money, but that doesn't mean those mortgage guidelines are your friend.
And this rule been 40 years actually in lending field, that, as my wife said, for the underwriting, and there are more strict rules many of the lenders apply when it comes with the self-employed. And that's what we wanted to talk about. And the hurdles, as we said, can be a little bit higher.
Right, so compared to 9 to 5, gig workers and independent contractors and our self-employed people like we are, what's amazing for you is you have this flexibility, you control your own schedule, you control your own workflow.
Yes.
But the reason is that the loan industry was written with all these automated underwritings that is geared towards steady paychecks, W-2 employees. So most lenders have very, very strict rules when it comes to helping you buy your home. So you might be cash rich in your account, but that doesn't mean that you are able to buy a house with these rules in place. So that is what we're kind of doing this video, and so we can kind of help you.
And the question is here, that is it possible? The short answer is going to be yes, but as my wife said, it's not always easy to deal with. And then what we're going to do...
we have dealt with a lot of workers ourselves, self-employed workers who have a lot of their cash rich, but they're mortgage issues. We have to send them to the right people. So that is what we're here to talk about, really, and
Therefore,
that's why we're making this.
Let's look at the question, what the lenders really look first. Therefore, the first thing that they're going to look, as you know, your credit score and your credit history. And the second thing, as a self-employed, they're looking at your asset. And the third, your income. And the fourth, they're looking to debt to income ratio. This is 4 main things that they're looking at.
So if you're a self-employed person, you have these challenges in place.
Yes.
You have to work 2 years in this job, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's your own, you have to be there for 2 years. Or you're making too little money according to the underwriting rules, which again, you might have a lot of money, but again, those rules are in place for a reason. For 40 years ago. So now we have this income inconsistency is the #1 reason for self-employed.
And no matter what you do, you need to show 2 years of consistent income to the lenders.
Right. So if the income inconsistency is going to have that, is why you have to have that 2 years, and your 1099 and tax returns have to reflect your total income. This is usually the biggest hurdle for self-employed. Why? We're going to get to it in a second.
Yes. Therefore, this is super important, and the reason that is super important is the underwriter cannot determine your debt to income ratio threshold for the type of conventional loans if you're looking for the conventional loans.
Why? The biggest one is your tax returns. Why?
Yes, because that is the main challenge.
Because our taxes, when we're self-employed, the government gives us and many of us take full advantage
yes.
of all of these write-offs that you are allowed by under the IRS.
And you're piling up all of these expenses. I said, I'm going to claim this one, I'm claim that one. But what happens with this?
This means that your tax return gets lower, so you're paying the tax bill less. However, it's also proving that your income is lower than it actually is. So when you're going to buy a house, this is typically much harder to buy a mortgage because your tax returns were lower than what they need to be in order to buy this house that you really want. So this is typically the biggest hurdle.
And there's one solution that if you're not wanting to go completely in with the self-employed, if you still have a W-2 job with a steady income and you think that your income is not big enough, the amount of the income that you have, you can use a side job or side gigs to basically push this income to be qualified. But remember, there's one thing.
2 years again. You can't do it last month in order to say that this is now extra income for you. So you can't just start something new, say this is how much I'm making now, and then expect to get a home. No, they're looking for that history. So what do you need? And you don't have to. Many self-employed do not do side hustles, when some do, many don't. So
this is just one solution.
Okay, so that just is for 1099. Now, if you are strict 1099, there are still solutions for you. So
therefore, now we wanted to talk about what documents as a self-employed you need to basically show to the lender. Make sure that you are
in order to get this mortgage.
Basically, as we said, the number one is 2-year federal tax income. What else?
I believe it's also your business bank statements.
Exactly. And a year-to-date profit and loss statement that shows your revenue, income, and all of your expenses.
Also, if you are in a field where you need a business license, they're definitely going to want a copy of that license. Also, a letter from your CPA if you have one.
That shows that you're 2 years in the business. And the last thing that some of the lenders, they might ask you is reserve.
Oh, before you get that, don't forget that credit score, credit history, pay all those bills on time, because all three of those tax things you can be checking yearly, and you should just make sure that your credit stays good. Next, reserve that you're talking about.
Yes. The reserve is 2 months to 12 months, depends. Not maybe all the lenders asking you, but it could ask you. But now we wanted to talk about how you can boost the chance of getting approved.
Right. So number one is that you keep your credit score, pay all those bills on time, pay down any debt you have, correct any errors that show up in your income, and then stay below the credit limits on your credit account. And what else?
And then you also wanted to watchful for your DTI. Absolutely. Because most of the lenders are looking to see your DTI around 43%. Therefore, as much as you can pay off, even schedule ahead to pay off as much as you can your debt on the credit card or any debt that you have.
So what does this mean if you are looking as a self-employed person? It means what do you have to qualify for? It is harder than those W-2s where you just need a letter from your lawyer.
You have a chance for QM mortgage or qualified mortgage that you can have conventional, FHA, or you are maybe a VA. You can go and they need a little bit more stricter rule for those, as my wife said. But also,
if for whatever reason those don't work out, there are still other options. Just so you know, we can kind of direct you to people who do non-QM loans, which are loans which have higher interest rate.
Yes.
But you don't qualify for the other ones. It's still not bad. You're still getting that house that you want in the area that you want to be in, wherever it is for the reasons that you want to be there.
Therefore, you can go to the route of the bank statement that they're looking at ability that you repay, any loans.
Typically the down payment is 10 to 25% with that one.
Yes.
Also, another one is a profit and
loss statement.
This is easy to fund at 10 to 25% down. And what's another one?
The next one is a non-ratio loan that has a 30% you need to put money down.
Also, your DTI has to be very low for these ones, and
in the 43 to 50%.
Your standard for your credit has to be about 640 to 680.
Yes.
There are a couple lenders that do 620, but it has to be higher. So Just so we're clear, make sure you keep your business and personal accounts
Therefore, this
separate.
is the tips for you as a gig worker or the self-employed.
Yes. Make sure those separate accounts. Understanding deposits and expenses in these accounts. Number 2, document everything. Schedule your Schedule C, your 1040, your 1099, your history as a 1065. If you have any business partnerships, C Corp, S Corp, LLC, have those papers in hand. Also, if you are renting, make sure that your rent is counting towards your credit if you can. If not, get a letter from your landlord that you always pay on time. Also, any sort of person that you've rented from or you're leased from or paid for, get those letters. So for investment, you're going to need reserves as well. So last thing, save your money.
Exactly. Therefore, if you are working with somebody for a period of time, make sure that you get that letter, because that shows how long you're in the business and is going to helping you as a self-employed.
Right. So now, if you own your own store where you're making $20,000 a year, I hope this was helpful. Or just, you're making a side gig of an extra $1,000 a month. That's still awesome.
Please call us.
We're here to help you.
Exactly. And have a wonderful day, and see you in the next video and the podcast.
Absolutely.